Good Friday afternoon, evening, Saturday morning,
Hey.
even, where you may be. Victor is back in his lair.
In my lair, yes, I'm back.
You were in Berlin this week?
I was in Berlin this week and I'm going to Berlin next week as well.
Yeah, at least it's only a couple hour flight. No big deal.
Yeah, I mean, some people commute to work. It
Longer than
takes them
that.
as much time to commute as to me to go to Berlin, so it's okay.
Hi, by the way, if you don't know who we are, my name is Darren Pope. This over here is Victor Farsick, and we are the host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Wednesdays, the episodes come out. On Fridays, we do this live stream. And today we've got news and some ideas and a lot of things we'll probably be keeping to ourselves, just to not get in trouble, not to get the lawyers after us. If you have a drink, get your drink out. I notice my little. See, I went European today, right? I have a little.
Is that European? British,
No,
probably.
no. It's 7.5 fluid ounces instead of the 500 milliliters or whatever the normal. I mean, it's 222 milliliters, but you know, this is the first time I ever saw cans this size was when I was traveling over to Europe. It's like, as a good U.S. citizen, I need 12 ounces.
Yeah, but you know that's probably a size that is appropriate
what I should be
for
drinking.
gin and tonic.
Yeah. Well, this is probably the size that I should just be drinking, period. If I'm going to have a soda, this is better than, the 64 ounce 3 times. I shouldn't do that. DevOps Freak, he's saying hello to you.
Hey.
Check this out. I made a YouTube channel inspired from you. Going to share my learnings and live streams over there.
Yeah, post
You're inspiring
the link
people.
to the channel.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And he also said hello to me. Oh, that's good. Karen, good to see
Hey,
you.
he
Thanks.
said say hello to me first.
Yeah, he said it's fine. It's fine. Let's go ahead and answer JR's question before we get into it. What's a typical career path for a manager? I have no idea. I've never been a manager in my life.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
Get into a
general,
big
I'm not-
company and stay there for 5 years until you get bored and a manager opens up? I don't know.
Yeah, and especially I'm not good at. In general, I'm not sure that I can answer any career path question because it's been so many years since kind of our career started, right?
Yeah, I guess my official career start year was 1982. That's when I started.
Now, one thing I will say about manager of any kind, it's extremely important that manager has understanding of what it's managing.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds silly, right? But kind of like, so some knowledge, understanding of DevOps infra and stuff like that
Yeah.
is very, very welcome.
But I've also had some managers before that weren't technical. And of course, me being the technical person was like, oh, how can they manage me? And it turns out they were really good because they understood people.
Yeah,
I think that's the key thing. If you want to be a manager of people, you need to understand how people work.
Yes, but to understand people, it is important to understand what people are saying. And if you draw blank whenever we speak about something, then it might be difficult. I'm not saying impossible, but difficult to understand people if you don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah. And of course, we started out by saying we didn't have an answer. I guess we did have an answer of some sort.
There you go.
Let's go ahead and get into it. This week's episode was about how to monitor and debug microservices. We had Aviat on from Lumigo, and we were talking about how specifically functions as a service can be a real pain to manage and debug.
Absolutely true.
I'm still not a huge fan of functions. There is a place for functions as a service. I just don't know that it's everywhere. I think that's the answer.
No serious company, I mean mid-size and up, can have a single type of application. Kind of like all applications are exactly the same. That never happened, right? And that indirectly means that no company can rely 100% on functions. The question is only whether it's 90 or 10%, and I'm leaning towards 10.
I think for today that's true. I mean, cold starts are being solved, and all those things are happening. Or if you only need something to run once a day, right, a batch type deal, to me that's the right thing. Or it's something that's
a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer for a function as a service.
yeah.
I'm just not. I just don't buy the idea of, applications, meaning that those that are kind of serving requests and what's not, that one instance per request is a good model, generally speaking.
Yeah, it would get to be super expensive. So anyway, if you haven't had a chance to listen to that, there's some listening homework for you for the weekend. Speaking of the podcast, one of our previous guests on from FinOut made an announcement this week. They got $18.5 million in funding. Congratulations to Roy and everybody at FinOut. You're buying next time we see you. That's what we always say.
Yeah.
But
is that Series A or what is it?
this was, I did read it. So they had a seed of 4.5
Yeah.
in March, and then this one was, I think, was the diff
Yeah,
between
it must
that.
be A comes after.
I think this is the,
Yeah.
yeah, there it is. 14 million in A. There we go.
It's a nice figure. Congrats.
14 million is a good starting point. Should help build it out a little bit more. In this whole FinOps space, I think that's still currently the underdog. I think within 24 months, that's going to be hotter than anything else.
Yes, that could be the next wave after security kind of calms down.
I think security is like the supply chain, all that kind of stuff right now is it right now. But after you've got your supply chain locked up, then your next thing you're probably doing is, okay, how do we manage all these costs that we're doing? That's where...
Which, if your prediction is true, that's kind of perfect because
yeah,
by those, what did you say, 24 months?
probably 24 months.
The investments will start getting back.
Yeah.
Because now next year or something, nobody's going to, very few investments are going to pour in.
Yeah. So again, congrats to the people at FinOut. Good day or good week for you. It's good to see. Got a couple of items from GitHub this week. One was an interesting announcement. We're talking about security and supply chain. So they've come up with a way to do dependency graph fully at build time and keeping track of it. Now, it only covers Go at this point, which would make you happy. But
You need to start somewhere.
you got to start. Shouldn't be the place you start. No, I'm joking, sort of. Not really. But anyway, going beyond alerts for statically analyzed dependencies, right? So if I'm in Maven, I got a POM XML. If I'm in JavaScript, I got a package JSON. I have these numbers. And it's easy to static analyze things, right? We've been doing static analysis of everything for decades. But now, it's not just that dependency, but it's the dependency of the dependencies on that. Oh, excuse me, the other direction. Of my dependency, what are its dependencies?
Yeah.
And that's, we never get all the way down to what is the origin. And that is what this is for, the way I read it. So if I can just give you my top level dependencies, then let it do track all the way down.
I mean, if you think about it, for most of the time we were focused on static analysis of the code that we write. But that's like, what is it, like 10% of the code that we ship?
It's a small number.
I mean, and I think that I'm being very generous when I say 10%. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually way less than 10%, and the rest actually is in what we import through libraries or what's not.
Yeah, I mean, there are very few, going down, following the family tree, if you will, there are very few projects at the bottom of the tree. I would say there's probably a couple of Apache projects that are just raw. SQLite, I believe, is completely no dependencies. other than what's on the. But even SQLite has dependencies on the runtime on the device you're on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but probably no compile time. And this is really compile time. Compile time dependencies.
I mean, that depends on the language. What's SQLite? Is it C?
It's C, yeah.
Okay, but the C is different, right? Kind of
It's true.
typically you would link to dependencies. I mean, so you would have
That's true. So it's not compiled.
dependencies,
So
just you expect them to be
bad example.
in the operating system, yeah.
Yeah. But like they were saying here, for other package managers, unlike Maven, Gradle and SBT, you can't statically parse it consistently just because of how you build out the files for build SBT or build.gradle.
Yeah.
So they get into all this, launching the API with supporting action for Go. So that's where it's at right now, which adds support for transitive dependency detection and gives a more accurate picture of your Go dependencies. So again, this is, and it's early beta right now. So if you're writing Go and you're on GitHub, this might be something to take a look at. Your choice. And it's under the Dependabot. So it's under the Dependabot family of items, which makes sense, right, from a dependency management. One more item from GitHub this week was Copilot went GA. $10 a month
And
or $100 a
half
year.
of internet freaking out. Why do they charge money?
Okay. Look, they should charge. And this is
course.
stupid cheap. Of all the AI stuff that I've been paying for, this is probably going to be the cheapest amount of AI related stuff I pay for each year. There's other AI stuff that I like, writing software and other things. I'm paying $300, $400 a year just for writing software. Now, if I only spend $100 to write all of my code for me, it's a no-brainer.
It is, I mean, $100 a year, that's like 8-point-something bucks a month.
Well, the way I look at it too is used to GitHub charged me, what was it, 80 US a year, 84 a year for private.
For private repos?
Yeah, and that dropped to 40-ish something.
Isn't that now free?
You can get a free, but I still pay for,
Okay.
I pay whatever it is. But anyway, that price got cut. So the way I look at it is, okay, well now I'm really not paying 100, I'm paying whatever, the 60 a year, just because that takes me back to my, because I was getting great value out of my private repositories anyway. It was $7 a month, so it was 84 a year. Now, can be free for verified students and maintainers of popular, and there's a big asterisk beside popular, open source projects.
Yep.
I did try it out. I actually tried it out, and I had forgotten to turn it off while I was writing some code working on a Jenkins plugin. I was like, let me turn that off. I won't get into all the details of why I turned it off right now. I don't want lawyers coming after me. But I turned it off for right now, just because.
But I like so I also tried it out, spent some time with it, and kind of like starting to write code did not work very well for me until I discovered the trick with writing comments. Kind of plain English sentence as if you're writing a novel, and that works like a charm.
You mean use real phrasing to describe what you're trying to do, and then let code be written?
Yeah.
What I want to do is,
I write the comment like HTTP server based on Gin. Right? I would more specific even than HTTP server. HTTP server based on Gin. Hit enter and it starts filling in. That's kind of the approach of writing a comment to describe what you want. To me, that's the interesting part.
I wonder if we can take those BRDs that we used to get back in the 80s and 90s and paste them in as comments and see what would happen. Business requirement documents. I think that's going to be the next level of... I mean, is Copilot the next level of no code? It's not.
I mean, not the next level of no code, but yeah, kind of next help for developing. So in a way, you can. I think of it similar like, those many projects in the past. I'm not sure today had some kind of scaffold. You initialize something through Maven, and it gives you generates the code for this type of application you want to have, right? And then you fill in the blanks, in a way. It's just that this reminds me of that kind of like it. I don't think it's sufficient to write all the code you have, but it gives you a jump start so that you can write the code that matters in a way.
What's interesting here is...
What's the value in me creating
Yeah.
HTTP boilerplate code over and over again?
None. Zero. So what's interesting is it's going to be coming to companies later this year. So it's available to all developers and then coming to companies, which I'm guessing means it's going to be rolled into enterprise at that point.
No, I think it's
No?
very related with the subject we don't want to talk about.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Good. If you are an open source maintainer, there is a separate link for an FAQ that talks about how can I get access to it for free, and it talks about there's the thing you have to do. My problem is I do a lot of open source, but I also do a lot of quote-unquote commercial. Right? I do stuff personally that is not open source. So with that in mind, ethically, I need to pay $100 a year. And I'm okay with that. Again, I didn't renew my IntelliJ or my JetBrains subscription this year. That was $144 a year. I can move the money here. I already moved it somewhere else, and I have to steal it from wherever I moved it to. I don't remember what I'm going to do with it now. Anyway.
You have a couple of months to actually make a final decision.
I do. It's 60 days.
Until August. 60 days.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, 60 days, which is fine. The other thing that I did like about this is it covers NeoVim, which I had forgotten about, all the JetBrains IDEs. Keep that in mind for a moment. Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. So covers a lot. Doesn't cover Eclipse. It didn't cover just plain Vim. Doesn't make, not surprising there. But now we've talked about Copilot. Hot on the heels of that, AWS announced yesterday in preview CodeWhisperer. So here's AWS showing up to the party again. We'll get into it in a second. Right now they cover Java, JavaScript, and Python, just those three. Whereas Copilot's doing more. There's too many code words today's show. They cover only a handful of the JetBrains, but they got the big three in my opinion. VS Code, Cloud9, you would expect that, and the Lambda console, so you can actually integrate right in the Lambda console. This one, out of all these, is the interesting one.
Yeah, I'm a bit skeptical about that one because, AWS dominates the market for cloud services. I mean, this is a cloud service as well, so I need to rephrase that somehow. Servers, cloud servers and managed services, but I'm not sure how often developers do actually turn to AWS for things that they're coding, really. It's very, very in the hands of Microsoft today. Kind of GitHub or GitLab if you want alternative, Visual Studio Code or JetBrains if you want alternative, right? But AWS is not really the first choice of many, right? For that type of tasks.
No, it's not. But maybe they're just trying to build this out as being part of their CodeStar line, which they actually have a product called CodeStar, which is even stranger. Because they have Code Build, CodeStar, Code Pipeline. All those.
It's a big company that can allow itself to actually have things that are not very, very used and still there.
Yeah. It's stuff that they've probably been using for a while internally. Right?
Yeah.
And They're just now sort of letting it leak and let people use it. If you want to get in on it, you have to join a wait list. And while it's under preview, it's free. So if you can get on the wait list, it would be interesting. The reason why I put this right beside Copilot, other than the obvious reasons, is I would love to see a bake-off between Copilot and CodeWhisperer. Give it the same prompt. In your case, you were saying comment, but it's really a prompt from an AI perspective.
Yeah.
And let it go and see what happens.
True. Yeah. Yeah, well, I want to try it out.
So anyway, and there's actually two, and the links to everything that we're looking at will be down in the description of the video later today, my time. They go into a whole little storyline here of here's how we do it, and give a comment of see if a number is a PR, and this is for Python, and then it says here's your suggestions. Now, this is one thing I did like based on what I'm seeing here is it gives you suggestions. I haven't seen Copilot do that for me.
It does.
It does? Do you have to? Well, okay.
Yeah, there is a shortcut, I think.
To cycle through?
On Mac,
Okay.
Command and a square bracket or something like that.
Okay. To get another option. Okay.
Yeah, to get a list of options.
Okay. That's the part I hadn't seen. So like this one, though. Create an S3 bucket. Right? And then all of a sudden, bang, it all drops out.
Yeah.
Right?
And this is okay, so this is also going through comments as well.
Yeah. It has to,
Nice.
because that's what AI is doing. It's you're giving it a prompt of something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about this one, but Copilot works in both ways. If you start writing def create bucket, it figures out from the name.
Right.
It's just that kind of comments are more expressive in a way, right?
Yeah. So anyway, that is CodeWhisperer, to me codes. One acquisition this week that I thought was interesting. Atomist is joining Docker. Now, I called it an acquisition. I don't know for sure that it was an acquisition.
Because Tilt was not acquired short while ago. It was
2
more
weeks
like
ago?
kind of some joint effort, right? I don't think it was a real acquiring, right?
Right. So I think it's just a matter of these companies are just coming
Joining
together.
forces, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hesitant to say the word merger because that tends to say cash was exchanged. But I could see them coming together. Because each of these things, like Tilt and Atomist for doing security here, having all of that built in and available within Docker Desktop and under the same team rules and everything else makes too much sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing I thought was interesting was Rod Johnson did this. Everybody knows who Rod Johnson is, right?
I don't know. Who is Rod Johnson?
Oh, he created this little framework a couple of decades ago called Spring.
Ah, that Ron. Okay.
That Rod Johnson.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Atomist joining forces with Docker. HashiCorp had their HashiConf in Europe this week. I think that was this week.
Okay. Yeah, it was this week.
This week.
I know that people, when I said I'm traveling, people start asking me, hey, where in HashiCorp you are?
Yeah.
Everybody, half of the people thought that that's where I went, yeah.
Oh. Was that because it was in Berlin too, right?
I don't know where it was, but somewhere.
Anyway, they've announced now that Waypoint, which is an open source project from HashiCorp, is now part of their HashiCorp cloud platform.
Okay.
Now, if you take a look at the listing of the services available in HCP, we have Terraform, we have Vault, we have Console, we have Packer. Now we have Waypoint, and if you're not familiar with Waypoint, it is, how do we explain it, Victor? Probably a CI/CD tool if you want to put it in a big bucket. Is that the closest way to explain it?
It's
Ish. It's not, but it is.
Yeah, it's
automation.
I don't know how. Yeah, I mean it's kind of modern version of SSH. That I think. kind of
Yeah, it goes way
how you
beyond
deploy
that.
stuff, right?
Yeah, how to deploy stuff. Yeah, so Waypoint sits here in the middle. You can have it drive the build, drive the deploy. It'll take care of the release. It's very similar to what's coming out with Dagger right now. Hopefully
Yeah.
the people at Dagger aren't going to be screaming at me. But they are similar. So anyway, it is now part of their cloud. It's going to be in the beta for 2 months. Wait, a handful of early adopters will be selected to participate in a 2-month beta program. And then from there, they'll probably take it GA.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and get one more item here, and I'll go back over to the comments because I see a lot of comments coming in.
Oh.
One other item there weren't a lot of announcements at HashiConf, but Waypoint was one, and this other one I thought was interesting. Terraform Cloud, so inside of HCP, adds drift detection now.
Okay.
So it's doing drift detection, but it's not doing any kind of remediation.
Yeah, no reconciliation. And I wonder whether that's because it will be done in steps or that's kind of a strategic decision never to do. I mean, I don't have the answer to that.
I don't know. I mean, before you could do remediation, you have to do detection.
Yeah, you need to
Right.
do detection, that for sure. Not necessarily. So if I simplify the process and say, run Terraform as a cron job every 5 minutes, right? Detection would be equivalent to Terraform plan, and remediation would be equivalent to Terraform apply. Now, if you skip Terraform plan and just run Terraform apply, you don't really need detection per se. It's just kind of like, hey, reconcile. And if there is nothing, then there is nothing, right?
Right. I guess that would be the simple way to do it.
I'm not saying a good way, but
No, but it's...
I've been doing that a long time ago with Jenkins, kind of just run a job every 5 minutes.
And it's interesting because they're calling it out here. Drift detection follows the announcements of Terraform 1.2 and run tasks. So basically, these were the building blocks, I would say, in order for drift detection to actually take place.
Yep.
Just the way I'm reading it, I don't know that for sure. So, because if you read on, it says, which are additional capabilities that increase efficiency while reducing the risk related to security, compliance, and operational consistency. Okay, well, these things needed to be there. That's going to help me get detection, maybe not so much hammer and nail.
Yep.
So, drift detection. Let's go get some of the questions here, because there were a few that I want to go back to.
Yeah.
He had somebody from Berlin. Dusan? Did you meet him this
Hey,
week?
Dusan.
Let me go back to this one question here. I don't know how to contribute to real working Golang projects. Talk about it a little bit. I have a short answer. Let me give the
Okay.
short answer, and then I'll let
Yeah.
you give the long answer. Find a project, fork it, put it in a PR. Right?
Exactly. With the additional note, kind of like choose some easy something kind of like low-hanging fruit. And actually, what you said, Darren, is partly correct. Before you fork it, go through the issues. Find low-hanging fruit over there. Or not low-hanging fruit. And then fork it, create a PR and all that stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
Alternative could be just join the Slack channel. Almost every project now has a Slack channel or discourse. If you're not sure which issue to pick, alternative is just say, hey, I would like to help. Would you redirect me to something that is appropriate to start with?
Yeah. Try to work with, if the community is good, start in the community. Like Jenkins has community.jenkins.io. Ask questions there. Or if there's a plugin you're trying to support or figure out, see if there's any open issues. All those things. But specifically for Go, I don't think it matters if it's Go or Java or anything else. It's just that pattern is true in any project. Should be true in any project. Try to attempt this one. Should developers be responsible for writing tests for code generated by Copilot, or should tests also be generated?
I don't see the reason why tests shouldn't be generated.
We used to generate tests decades ago,
Yeah.
right?
Now, I assume that when you generate tests, just as when you generate code, which is strange to say because tests are code as well, it's not only about generation. You go there then and review it and you modify it and do what's or not. Kind of code generation is just a base which you modify, right? And if that is true, then yes, why not have a base for tests? And then you figure out what you need to change.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I would rather, I don't feel as bad about, maybe it's just me being old. I don't mind having tests automatically generated for me because I'm used to that. And if it can give me a little bit more test, that's even better. The real code,
Yeah.
I'm hesitant on. Not because it's not good, because the stuff I've seen, it has been good.
Yeah, but tests are code.
Test our code, though. Exactly. But it's not the code that I'm writing. Oh, wait, it is. It gets circular,
I mean,
right?
You know, if you say, hey, you used to generate code of the tests in the past, one way or another, I could say the same thing for code of the code. Kind of going back to my favorite example, Dreamweaver.
Oh, yeah.
It's not we've been doing that for tests and not for the rest of the code.
I know. Let me put this one up here because I'm not sure what the answer is for this. What are some of the key platform operations success factors?
Platform operations, I could interpret that in two ways. Kind of like the team that is building platform for other teams,
Mm-hmm.
or the team that is operating production. If it's the first case, then it's your user satisfaction, like any other product, right? If it's operations on production, then we're talking about uptime and other SLAs.
In other words, read the Google SRE books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it varies from company to company
It
what
does.
you want to commit to, but you commit to certain, very often related to response time and uptime and things like that. And you see how much you deviated from the commitment.
Yeah.
But if it's a platform for others, then it's a product, and your users are customers. The best way to measure it is actually to say nobody is forced to use it.
And then
then
figure
see
out who
how
uses
many-
it, if anybody uses it or not. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's like this can of soda. Would I buy another 6-pack of this size of can? Probably not. Because there's not enough in it. So,
Yeah. There you go.
because I've already emptied it and we're not even through. Does Docker Inc. have what it takes to stay relevant? Do you want to pass
I
on this
honestly
one?
don't know. Huh?
Do you want to pass on this one?
No, I honestly don't know. So Docker from before failed and doesn't have to do what it takes. And today's Docker is Docker in name, right? It's a very different company with very different people and very different objectives, very different focus. So I don't know. It's a new company, really. I don't see it as the question is almost incorrect, right? If it would be the same company, then does it have what it takes? But it's not. So I don't know. They need to prove themselves now. They're almost starting from, they're not starting from zero, but they're starting from 20% instead of 100% they were in before.
They have brand recognition, but it's not the same
Brand
product.
recognition and market penetration. So Docker Desktop is everywhere. Right now, whether they will make Docker Desktop and other tools relevant relevant commercially, just to clarify. Docker Desktop is extremely relevant and continues being extremely relevant. So they prove the relevancy. Whether they will be able to earn money so that they can continue doing stuff for free is yet to be seen.
Yep. And Ari had one comment. Some issues going back to how to get started, sometimes they have a for beginner tag on it, which is...
Yes.
Or you may see, what is it, first issue is another one I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
typically there should be a section either in the README of the project or in docs like contributions or for contributors or something like that that explains all those things.
And that's something that I will say to maintainers, including myself, is go take a look at your README, and if you don't have a for contributors section on it, add one. Yeah, create one. If you do have one, then probably the very first part of it should be, if you're just wanting to get started, add that section underneath that. That would help clarify.
You know, one good way to do it is that when you get questions on Slack, whatever those questions are, let's say in this example how to contribute, if you cannot answer the questions by a link to the docs, then you're missing something in the docs.
That's true. Because everything should have, if something is so new it doesn't have an answer yet, then a doc should be created from that. If something's been out for 3 years and it has never been asked about.
There are some questions that are one-off questions that do not necessarily deserve the entry in the doc. But if you say, hey, there is a chance that somebody else will ask this in the future, link to the docs.
That's true. Because even if somebody else doesn't find it, and you know that doc exists, then you can send them to the doc. In my day job, there are about 6 that I have burned in my brain. That somebody answers the question, I know exactly where to send them.
And here comes the second advice. If you do send a link to the docs, and you send 3 times the same link to different people, then that means that actually you do have it in the docs, but it's not easy to find. It's not obvious where it is.
Yep. So you need
kind
to
of like,
expose
so if the
it
same
better.
link repeats, you have a different type of problem.
That means your search, you're not visible enough in your own search, or you're not visible enough in search. Meaning your on-site search versus Google search.
Some things are people search for, some things, and you need to be, find through search on the website or Google. But there are some other things that simply need to be obviously reachable from the navigation, like tree navigation. Like for contributions, right?
Yep.
I'm not sure that I would ever search project X, how to contribute. I would assume that that's kind of like one of the 5, 6, 7 sections in the root of the docs, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to a couple of the other tools that I found this week.
Yeah.
So the first one was called Epinio. It's from SUSE, and this isn't so much new as it went 1.0 about how long ago? Let's see. 9 hours ago. No, it's been out for, there's been 54 releases, right? So it's not new, but it's at 1.0.0.
Yep.
And if you don't know what Epinio is, let's go back to the site here. Tame your developer workflow to go from code to URL in one step. So the way I was explaining it to Victor before, and I haven't played with it yet, to me it feels like Heroku, where you hooked it up, or like what we do with the site, with Netlify. Here's my repository, have a nice day.
Exactly.
That's what this is. So if you take a look at the docs, it says push from source, push your code directly to the platform without needing to build complicated CD pipelines or writing any YAML. Sounds good to me.
Yep.
And then you can also dig into what your application is doing with your favorite debugger or IDE. That one seems like magic to me. It's doing port forwarding, obviously, to get in, to do debugging, which scares me a bit. But there's the basics of it. Here's your code. or a container image or a Git repository, run it through the API, and bingo bango, you're magically
There
running
you
in
go.
Kubernetes.
That poses a question then. If you use something like Epinio, should you actually have even access to Kubernetes cluster? Should it become a service, kind of like Fly.io? Okay, so like Heroku, right? Kind of, or no?
What do you mean have
I mean, I can
access?
see arguments for both. Huh?
What do you mean by having access in this case?
Yeah, I mean, you have a Heroku model where, or Fly.io, just to put another example, where you say, here's my code, run it, and that's about it. And you have the model, here's my code, run it, and there is a Kubernetes behind the scenes, and you can access that Kubernetes and do stuff in it and what's or not, right? Which I guess is more operator friendly, but then poses potential problems down the line for the end users, right?
Yeah. Well, to me, it would be a security issue that I could be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like where instead of me just replacing the image, I decide to go into my editor and just make code changes and let it, fix my code changes there.
Exactly.
Right. And I think used correctly, it makes sense. Like if I'm using this only as a development tool, again, being careful where the edges are, I could see this, right? Because I can round trip it, because one thing it does say is it does run well on your local development machine using Rancher Desktop. Rancher's owned by SUSE.
Yep.
So to me, this is the sweet spot. And developer happiness, I really dislike that phrase. Because who cares if the developer is happy or not? I mean, that's a different conversation for a different day. But if I can quickly get my code and running in a container, at least from a development standpoint, and I know that part at least works, then I have greater confidence that once it's actually deployed to real life, at least I know in theory how it's going to react. In theory. So that's Epinio, if I'm even saying it correctly. So people at SUSE, please correct me if I'm wrong. Data-diff, for anybody, we don't talk a lot about data, but this tool, I saw it is Python-based, which is data related, so it's not a big deal. But what it allows you to do is verify data migration. So if you've ever had to move data from one database to another, and you need to verify it, in this example, I'm moving from Heroku Postgres to Amazon RDS. At least I can make sure everything's there. That's a good thing. Or verifying data pipelines, or alerting, all these other things. So here's where they did a comparison number. It was insane to me. 25 million rows in Postgres where the right-hand table is missing a single row with this. And was able to do it in chunks to find where the problem is. So if you're doing deep data level stuff, it's great. Now, it's very, very restrictive at this point, or restricted at this point. Postgres, MySQL, and Snowflake are the joy, happy, happies. Oracle, BigQuery, Redshift, Presto, getting there, and all these others. But what I thought was interesting mostly here is Kafka and Druid at the bottom. So they're not just looking at relational data stores, but also event data stores. So if I could diff between, for whatever reason, between Druid and Kafka,
It's one of those curious tools that are extremely helpful, extremely infrequently.
correct. But when you need it,
Right? Kind of like on average, you might do it once in years or 10 years. Some people never.
Yeah.
And when you need it, then you definitely need it, right?
Yep. And this
It's
is
kind of not something that somebody will play with until the time comes. It's almost kind of everybody will forget about it, and then if it appears in Google, then 3 years from now when you need it, you're going to land on it, right?
Yep. It is a new project, newish, about a month old, from the folks at Datafold. And it's currently at 021. So,
Nice. Very helpful.
okay. We've talked about Mermaid in the past. You know, that markdown type language to do diagrams.
Yep.
Does anybody remember Gantt charts? Do you remember just like staring at a Gantt chart back in the 90s?
Not understanding what the heck is going on.
Yeah. To
I
where
do remember that, yes.
So you open up Microsoft Project and you have to print out a Gantt chart, but you don't have paper large enough to print out a Gantt chart because you need to be able to tape it up on the wall. So you print out a grid of 5 by 4 pages and you tape them all together because there was a grid line you could overlay so you could have a nice clean line because you didn't have a drafting printer.
And then somebody comes within next half an hour and shows that actually something is not correct and then you print it again.
Print it again and tape it up. It takes you longer to tape it than it takes you to, yes. So anyway, along the lines of Mermaid is Markwhen. It gives you a markdown-ish, and they're very clear in that, markdown-ish way to take text and turn it into a timeline. So in our case here, we'll look at a real example. So you can do tags, colors. All of this is going to be in code, right? You set up events, dates. You can even do ISO 8601 dates, right? They're doing the right things here. Let's take a look at what it really looks like. This is markwhen.com, which is linked from the repo. So they have defined, here's the title, Project Planning Example. So that's Project 1. Right here, Project 1. Here's the color for it. Here's our subtask. And as you hover over this, if you'll notice on the left-hand side, it highlights where you're really at. Let's say I want to move this up. I can swap it. That's just as easy as changing code in your text. There's lots of other things here you can do.
But here's a question: how big is it the section of people who like Markdown and write Gantt charts? I mean, there must be at least one.
At least one, yeah.
I mean, I think it's awesome. I love it. I love it. It's just that I don't see myself writing Gantt charts anytime soon.
Actually, there's two, because there's two contributors. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't see Gantt chart type of people writing Markdown. That's my problem.
Yeah. But this is actually pretty neat. I have to admit.
Yeah. It is.
Because, I mean, I don't like managing Gantt charts to begin with, but good documentation, all the other stuff that goes right along with it.
But here's a question, and I'm asking this because I really don't know. I'm inventing now. Shouldn't Gantt charts be somehow connected to some database of sorts? Shouldn't it be getting that information from Jira or from, I'm not sure where.
It should. Yeah.
But this looks like, Gantt charts to me always looked like something that is actually in a flux in a way. You might start with some
idea,
some plan.
You got the plan. Yep.
And then you feed it more and more info, and it is morphing itself.
It should be. Like this is, I would love to have this type of view fed through a data source.
Yeah.
Right. The data source.
Exactly.
I mean,
could be any maybe just to start with developers, maybe any type of project management tool. It could be GitHub Issues, it could be Trello, it could be Jira, any of those things.
Yep. Oh wait! Wow, that's bright. Okay, here, let's not do that.
Don't do
it.
It
works. It works. But yeah, I mean, they've put a lot of thought into it. I mean, there's a lot going on here.
Huh?
So, I mean, if you could figure out how to have your tooling, Jira, GitHub Issues, spit out this data.
It has the API. If this would be Jira, there is a date of date it starts, date it ends, or date it will end, or predict it to end, or whatever the date is, and the title of the ticket. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, if you're completely inside Jira, I think there's ways to do that just internally. But if you're trying to
I'm
pull
pretty
together
sure, yeah.
places from multiple, or if you're trying to pull in multiple data sources, that's when that single tool falls apart. And having something like this to where you can visualize would be nice. But visualizing. Codespaces.
Yeah, we're in a week of GitHub, huh?
Yeah.
It's interesting, kind of. Nothing new, really. Kind of, there is nothing really about Codespaces that we haven't seen at least few times before, right? Nothing that doesn't exist in Gitpod, with things that do exist in Gitpod and not in Codespaces. There are many other tools like Octeto, even though Octeto is a different beast and it works with Codespaces and so on and so forth, but nothing new. The only important thing about GitHub Codespaces is that it's there. So kind of like you don't need to think about it, right? It's part of GitHub. That's the appeal, I think. Not really technically anything special or feature-wise, but it's there.
But it's there.
It could be nice that it's there, right?
I mean, if I were to think of any company that would do something like that, it would be Microsoft,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's
Kind of, I'm having trouble predicting where Microsoft is going, but it's going back to, I don't know how much you used Microsoft, in Visual Studio like 20 years ago, but developer tools that were coming from Microsoft were kind of way ahead of anybody else. It was absolutely amazing. And then Microsoft just went sideways, we all know the story. But right now, there is no developer-focused company that can rival GitHub part of Microsoft, right?
I don't think so. And the only Microsoft product I have ever used in my whole career was Microsoft J++, which was their Java fork in '99.
Okay, yeah.
I've never worked in any Microsoft project, programming language or anything else other than J++.
No, I think that my first contact was Visual Basic, maybe. Anyway, I was even a subscriber to MSF or whatever.
MSDN? MSDN.
Yeah, exactly. It was amazing. I remember when I joined a company and they said Java Eclipse, and after a week with Eclipse, I hated myself at that time.
I think you would still hate yourself now, too.
Yeah, but now kind of like Visual Studio is probably not a thing anymore.
What do you mean by that? It's huge.
Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code.
Visual Studio is still a huge
Is it
thing.
huge?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Well done then.
Visual Studio people think that Visual Studio Code is a toy.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It's their choice. Just
But anyways, Visual Studio Code, GitHub, Codespaces, Copilot, so on and so forth. It's a big portfolio. And all of those things work well, right?
I was poking at developer happiness from Epinio. I don't think anything is going to beat that stack you just talked about.
It seems to be a seller, I think. Kind of like they seem to be kind of going crazy. That's why I'm saying I cannot even imagine what. It seems
What's
that they're
next?
putting a lot of effort and what's next. But I can easily guess that we're going to see a couple of new, kind of completely new tools, ignoring the iterations, improvements every year.
Yeah. I can't believe we're saying things nice about Microsoft. It's just
Microsoft is the most positive and the best transformation I ever saw. How many other companies that were in a position Microsoft was before the latest CEO, whatever is his name, I cannot remember.
Satya Nadella.
Exactly.
Nadella. Yeah.
Microsoft before him and Microsoft now, which other company that did that type of transformation from Kind of like being at the top, getting close to the bottom, at least when hatred is concerned, and coming back in a completely different direction is successfully, right? I don't know many. I mean, of that size.
Of that size. Yeah, I cannot think of any that have done that kind of about face.
We might. I think that Microsoft is in a similar position today. Sorry, was in a similar position before the CEO as maybe Oracle is today.
Yeah.
Right, kind of like it's not unprofitable, right? But it's sinking, right? And it would be interesting to see whether they will be able to pull something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what the succession plan is for Oracle.
I mean, it requires a new person with the power to change things and a vision, right?
Yep.
And the finances, money is there.
Yep. Money is not an obstacle.
Yeah.
There. Obviously, money is always an obstacle, but not really.
Money is not, in those cases, money is not the obstacle. What is obstacle is short-term profit.
Correct.
Right? You need to sacrifice the profit you're getting right now, kind of kill a couple of milking cows for the sake of the future, and that's a hard thing to do.
Yes, it is. Why did we start talking about business? What?
I have no idea. What got into us?
I don't know. So anyway, this is interesting. Like what Ari said, I can definitely see a Microsoft version of an IDP coming. I could see that.
I can see that, yeah.
They used to have that, I think, in the late 90s. But I can't remember what the name of it was. But yeah, it would have to be completely reimagined in this world. I mean, they also have their no-code thing too. Was it called Platform App or whatever it is?
Actually, it would be hard to see that.
Think so?
Now, when I think about it, because what GitHub and Visual Studio Code do is, they have a relation, but very, very thin relation with Azure, right? They're not so focused on Azure itself. They're not trying to be a tool that is useful to you only and exclusively if you're an Azure convert, right? Now, IDP, I cannot imagine Microsoft not making it exclusive for Azure.
I could see that.
Maybe.
Okay. Anyway, we're at the top of the hour.
Deployed to EKS?
Maybe not. Yeah. So you probably have a meeting to go to in about 2 minutes.
Probably. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we'll be back next Friday. Next Friday will be July 1st, I believe. I can't believe it. 6 months through will already be done for the year. It's time for Christmas again starting next Friday. So Monday you'll have a video, which I saw was already done. I don't remember what it was, but I saw it was done. I was shocked.
I never did that before. A week in advance. Man.
Podcast on Wednesday. AMA on DevOps Toolkit on Thursday, unless something's changing. Are you going to be back for that or no?
Probably not. No,
probably not.
Okay. I'm actually, Thursday is my talk.
Oh, so definitely not.
Community days, so.
Okay.
Too risky, me running away.
So that won't happen, so I'll take that finger away. But then we'll come back next Friday, I hope. Or are you going to be home on Friday?
Yes, Friday I'll be home, yeah.
Okay. All right. So thanks, everybody, for being with us live. If you're still here, go ahead and give us a thumbs up before you leave. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. To everybody who was with us live, thanks for being with us live, spending an hour of your Friday with us. We really appreciate it. And we will talk to you again next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.